Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to my channel. Please don't forget to subscribe and let's reach 1000 subscribers so that I will post videos regularly. Also, use the super ninjutsu power to like this video. Finally, don't forget to write in the comments which anime you want me to cut and turn on the bleach bell to get notifications and be informed when a new video will be uploaded. Let's go! The anime begins with the father of our main character, Thorfinn, waking up in the wet filth and then being called by his wife Helga with the baby in her arms. Thor is about to approach her, but suddenly he remembers his past. In 987 Anno Domini, he killed all the soldiers on board with his comrade Thorkid. Thor ran alone to kill the enemies, but one arrow hit him and he fell into the water and then easily killed the enemy underwater. Suddenly Thor threw away the sword and sailed away, and then he swam ashore and walked far from the battle. Now in 1002 Anno Domini in Iceland, our main character, 6-year-old Thorfinn, brings some water and then milks cows and collects milk. The same night, Leif Ericson tells the children about how they had previously found the great land of Vinland. This land was warmer than Iceland, after which they met the locals with whom they quickly befriended, and they gave them a pipe and a head with feathers as a sign of friendship. The children began to adopt Leif's stories as well as Thorfinn. Thor returned and asked Ari to escort all children home. Leif warned Thor that this winter would be very cold. At night, Thorfinn has a dream in which he presents himself as the captain, but Jormungand grabs him and he wakes up in the arms of his sister Ylva. The next morning, Ylva asks his father to hire a slave, but he refuses. Then she falls and finds the body of a runaway slave. In another part of the village, Leif told Thorfinn that the sea is a spooky place and very dangerous. Thor brought the body of the slave into the house and tried his best to revive him. Leif added that they had previously lived in Norway but fled because Harald had appeared and conquered Norway with his army. Many fled the tyranny of Harald and found themselves here in Iceland, but little Thorfinn didn't believe him, calling him a liar. He ran home and saw the slave awake. The slave said that he had run away from Halfdan and started crying. Suddenly, one of the villagers enters the house and says that Halfdan and his soldiers landed on their lands because they were looking for this slave. At this time, the Thors and Halfdan's warriors are about to engage, but Halfdan punishes his warrior with his chain for disobedience. While in the house of Thors, the slave imagines them as his parents. Thors calms the slave and tells about Vinland. Halfdan rushes into their house and asks for his return, but Thors offers 8 sheep for him and Halfdan agrees. The same night, Ylva regrets that they gave 8 sheep to a slave who died, and Thorfinn approaches his father and asks about a long-running escape from Norway, and Thor confirms it. In the north of England, the Viking settlement was attacked by English soldiers during a bad day. In the present, Thorfinn along with other children play warriors and he loses along with his friend. Leif told them that they were going to Norway tomorrow to exchange their goods. Leif asks Thorfinn to tell his father that the warship approaches their lands. Next, Thor comes and welcomes them as Yom's Vikings, and they dock in front of him led by Floki. They didn't know he was hiding here. Floki then comes to his home and people don't understand who Thor really is and watch what happens with Thorfinn. At this time, Floki talks about the murder on the best day, and he also says that the princess Gunhilda, sister of King Sven of Denmark, was also killed. As war approaches, Yom's Vikings will merge with the army of Denmark. Thor refuses to join this war, but Floki says that Chief Sigvaldi ordered the return of all Yom's Vikings to Jomsburg, even those who fled, including Thor's the Troll. The children hearing this run away and wanted to participate in this war. While Floki warns Thor that if he returns empty-handed, the honor of the chief will suffer. Suddenly, Yom's Vikings depart back to the ship and Floki announces that Thor will go to the war, and everyone can join him. Everyone around him begins to rejoice, but Thor is upset with all of this and goes home. Leif notes that he had no choice. Thor said that he used to live by taking people's lives, but one day he hated it and left. He also added that if he disappeared again, the Vikings would attack the village and kill all the inhabitants. Suddenly, Thorfinn began to defeat all the children, and because of him, one child broke his arm. The villagers were happy to go to war. At his home, Thorfinn searches for a real weapon and opens the chest and finds his father's dagger, but his father squeezes the blade of the knife and his hand bleeds. Thor says that the sword is the weapon of murder and asks his son who his enemy is. And the stupid Thorfinn answers Helden. Father takes him by the shoulders and says that no one has enemies and it's wrong to kill. Thorfinn shouted that tomorrow his father is going to kill warriors and that all his words are lies, and then the boy runs away. Meanwhile, at the Streymoy of the Faroe Islands, the Vikings mocked the Holy Father and Vikings stood behind them. Floki mentioned that Askeladd's warriors are still savages. Floki says that the terms are the same. Askeladd will be given 100 coins and his target's ship and cargo. All he has to do is to kill Thors. Next, we find out that Askeladd and his men are mercenary killers. Floki says the order to kill Askeladd was announced 15 years ago, but the smart Askeladd asked why they didn't kill him and Floki refrained from answering. Floki becomes angry at what Askeladd orders him to do, but suddenly Bjorn's spear is thrown in their direction and lands in between the two men. Askeladd asks for 100 coins and asks what Thors is in combat. Floki replies that he is no longer a warrior. Suddenly, Floki tears the tablecloths on the wall and we see that the spear has got into one of Vikings because Askeladd knew about it. And the farewell, Ari boasts to Ylva that he is going to war as well as other village boys. Before they sail, all bid farewell to the warriors led by Thors. While Leif tells the young girl that the young ones will not fight, Thors will leave everyone in Norway and sail alone to Jomsburg. At this time Thors was everywhere looking for his son but couldn't find him. It was time to set sail, but Thorfinn didn't come to see his father off. As a result, they all came to the stream and were very tired of rowing except Thors. Suddenly Thorfinn came out of the barrel and his father became angry with him. At this time, Askeladd realized that Floki had lied about Thor's death sentence because he has a personal grudge against him, and Askeladd was eager to meet him. At night, Ari asked Thor to talk about the war, and Thor noticed that he had fallen in love with his daughter. Ylva was born when Thor was a young Viking and asked his wife next time to have a son. Helga became very angry and asked Thor to give her a name. And he gave her his mother's name Ylva. When he had the baby, he started to fear fighting and then he ran away. In the morning, they arrive at Faranhasis where they can rest and resupply their supplies. Suddenly, Leif noticed that there were fewer houses on the island and they decided to move back. But suddenly, Askeladd's Vikings threw down the timber and blocked their way. Thor took out his sword and gave his dagger to his son. On the ship of Askeladd, Bjorn eats a berserk mushroom and asks his boss to kill Thor personally. Suddenly, Thor jumps on their ship and beats up all the warriors. Bjorn and Askeladd are surprised at the power of Thor and he easily beats up all those attacking him. The mushroom begins to act and Bjorn gains incredible strength and loses control over himself. He begins to attack his comrades. Bjorn attacks Thor, but he stops him with one stroke, but suddenly Bjorn appears behind him. At this time, a second ship led by Askeladd wants to attack the children, but Thor throws Bjorn into the water and comes to the aid of his own. He orders the Vikings to leave, and the archers wait for the Askeladd signal. Thor realizes that he can defeat everyone, but the mob can kill children from his ship. Suddenly, Thor challenges Askeladd. If Thor wins, they leave, and if Askeladd, he can do whatever he wants. Askeladd accepts his challenge and begins a duel. Thor realized that Floki was involved in all this. He emerged fearlessly, but Askeladd cuts a rope that releases the ship's sail to the ground, and with a sudden attack, cuts his chest. Thor began to attack with all force, and Askeladd simply defended or dodged. Thor tries to break his sword, but Askeladd predicts this and breaks his sword. Then he tries to strike one last blow, but Thor strikes his arm and grabs his sword. He holds the sword to Askeladd's throat and asks him to surrender, but Askeladd cannot do so in front of his army. Thor cried out that a true warrior doesn't need a sword, and Askeladd offered him to be their leader. Everyone was surprised, but suddenly he said he was joking. At this time Bjorn jumped on their ship and captured Thorfinn. Askeladd broke his word and broke the rules of the duel. Thor suddenly threw the sword into the water, and Askeladd ordered his archers to shoot at him. All the arrows hit Thor, but he was still standing. Askeladd promised that he would withdraw his army. Then Thor asked Leif to carry his head to Sigvaldi, and if he wouldn't do it, their settlement would be destroyed. And he ordered Bjorn to release his son, and Thorfinn, all in tears, ran to his father. Ari ran with the sword at Askeladd, but he knocked him out with one blow, and Thor died standing while his son hugged him. Thorfinn hid on his father's ship and cried the whole way, not understanding why his father had thrown the sword. Askeladd took Thorfinn with him and could not understand why Thor had not killed anyone. Thorfinn started to hate him and malice towards Askeladd, and he swore to kill him. But Askeladd ordered the kid to live. On the ship, Thorfinn became very hungry and thirsty. Askeladd and his army arrived in England and went to rest, and Thorfinn, trying to catch up with them, fell down and fell asleep. He woke up late at night and, hearing the sound of water, ran and drank water. Suddenly he heard screams and saw fire. Askeladd and his army robbed and burned the whole village. Little Thorfinn came there and tried his best to find Askeladd. After a while he finds him but cannot kill him and leaves, at which point Askeladd didn't sleep and watched everything. Early in the morning, Thorfinn challenges Askeladd to a duel, and Askeladd said he should have cut off his head while he was sleeping. In response to his words, Thorfinn said that he could not have done so despicable. Thorfinn runs at him with a sword, but Askeladd easily dodges and kicks him. Next, Jom's Vikings came to Askeladd and reported that Thor's death was confirmed and gave him the money. Askeladd also added that Thor died a very ordinary death. At this time, Askeladd's soldiers roasted the meat and saw a hungry Thorfinn. They threw him a bone, but he refused to take it and went looking for food. In the woods, he finds himself a meal and then comes back and gnaws those bones. At this time, Leif returns to the village and informs his family of the death of Thor and the loss of Thorfinn. Ylva takes his father's death with ease and becomes the head of the family and performs all household chores, as well as catches whales with others. Late at night, her mother asks her to go to bed, but suddenly, tears come out of her eyes and Thorfinn continues to train. In the morning, Bjorn comes to Thorfinn and Thorfinn attacks him, but Bjorn easily repels him. Bjorn comes to Askeladd and says that Thorfinn is still alive. At night, he is attacked by a wolf, but Thorfinn gets his father's dagger and kills the wolf. Every day he learns the dagger and hunts and succeeds. Askeladd and his army are about to withdraw, but Thorfinn approaches them and challenges Askeladd again. He accepts the kid's challenge and begins a fight. Thorfinn attacks him, but Askeladd starts kicking him. Bjorn suggests stopping at this point while Askeladd is distracted. Thorfinn throws his dagger at him, but Askeladd anticipates this and immediately defends himself. He stops fighting and doesn't want to kill Thorfinn, but the kid doesn't give up. Askeladd tells him first to be famous on the battlefield, and when the time comes, he will give him that last battle. It begins to rain in the sea, and Askeladd's army is happy about this. They also joke with Thorfinn. In the early 9th century, the Danish attacked England and started to conquer it. However, the English attacked them and the war was inevitable. Askeladd's army reaches Gainsborough and sees many dead people. Askeladd informs Bjorn that Vikings are also involved in this war because the Danes hired them, and one day the King of Denmark will invade England. Well, at night, Askeladd meets with the Vikings and offers his help. Askeladd's army will destroy Lord's territory, but in return they will take 5 pounds of gold along with all the women and all the treacherous food. Suddenly, arrows start raining down on Askeladd's camp. The Vikings have died as well as some of the army members. The rest starts a fight, and unexpectedly, English warrior is going to kill Thorfinn, but Askeladd saves him. Later, another one runs at Thorfinn, but the young boy dodges the sword attack and kills him with his dagger. Thorfinn starts to cheer up and yells. Askeladd's army gets more missions, and Thorfinn develops his killing skills. He personally fights 2 warriors and kills them. In 6 years at 1008 Anno Domini, a woman with her daughters is wounded Thorfinn and takes him to their home. He wakes up and they invite him for dinner. The woman asks some questions, but hungry Thorfinn ignores them and continues to eat. The young lady thinks that he is Dane, but her mother doesn't care about it. She just wants to help him. While combing Thorfinn's hair, he says that he doesn't understand her. Suddenly, Englishman arrives and asks about the Danish kid. She saves Thorfinn and tells him that he is her son. At night, the daughter is angry that her mother saved him. Mother thinks that he is not a warrior, and then Thorfinn takes a burning wood and tells them to run away right now. Thorfinn sets the house on fire and Askeladd notes it. All the English go there and find Thorfinn. Mother arrives and sees how Thorfinn kills an English warrior. He tells them they have still time to run away, but she begins to cry. Askeladd reaches this village and congratulates him. Thorfinn looks at that woman and gets reminded of his family, but then she disappears and he joins the army. In October 1012 Anno Domini, King Sweyn orders to stop attacking England because winter is coming and all warriors need to get some rest. Then they will strike again the next summer. Askeladd and his army leaves England territories and go to France, where Franks fight against themselves, but the attackers lose and go back. Askeladd decides to help attackers and conquer the fort. He orders Thorfinn to meet the attackers' leader and offer Askeladd's help, but in return they will have to give half of all spoils to them. At that moment, Thorfinn replies that he killed a lot of people. After that, Askeladd promises to give him 3 pieces of gold, but Thorfinn doesn't need money and the only thing he wants is a battle with him. Askeladd agrees and orders him to bring at least 1 head with a helmet, and Thorfinn immediately runs to do it. He arrives at the attacker's camp and with the translator's help explains Japheth what they want. He answers that they want too much. Thorfinn says that if they refuse the offer, Askeladd with his 100 warriors army will join the defenders and kill all attackers. Japheth agrees and Thorfinn gives the signal to Askeladd. The next morning, the commander of the attackers informs Japheth about the dragon going up to the hill last night and says that it's a bad omen. After that, Japheth orders his army to attack because Askeladd's army will join later, as Thorfinn said. The battle starts and Thorfinn runs to kill the leader of the defenders personally. Japheth thinks that he lied and runs away, but suddenly Askeladd and his army appear from the forest with his men carrying their boats and shocking Japheth. Next, Askeladd's army put their boats into the lake and head towards the fort. Later, they are crossing the wall, but suddenly crossbowmen start to shoot their boats. Unexpectedly, Thorfinn climbs to the wall and starts to kill all the Franks. He reaches their leader and cuts off his head, but the head starts to fall to the river and Thorfinn jumps to catch it. At that time, Askeladd with his army reached the center of the fort and starts to kill all warriors. Japheth enters the fort and notices that they are too wild. Because of that, he plans to attack Askeladd's army when they will be going back with their boats. Suddenly, Japheth enters the treasure room and sees that it's empty because Vikings have stolen everything. With boats filled with gold, Askeladd yells that they will get all the treasure and that Franks will get the victory. Suddenly, Thorfinn climbs to the boat and throws the leader's head, then challenges Askeladd to a duel. Franks start to shoot them with arrows, and boats come down the waterfall and they escape, but the duel has been rescheduled. In November, Askeladd and his crew arrive homeland to take a rest during the winter. All people of the village came to meet them and were happy about the treasure they bought. At this time, Askeladd meets the feudal Lord Gorm, who tells him that they spent a lot of money. After that, Askeladd calms him down, saying that they have brought a lot of treasure. He asks Gorm to be his witness in a duel with Thorfinn. All people come to see their duel. At that time, Gorm announces the start of the battle, and Askeladd says that he groans too fast. In an instant, Thorfinn attacks him, but Askeladd dodges and they start fighting. Askeladd hits with his sword and Thorfinn rebounds, knowing that by using daggers he won't be able to resist. Then Thorfinn runs at him and disarms him, but bounces back, fearing that Askeladd will catch him. Askeladd takes his sword back and provokes him to malice, talking about his dead father and saying that Thors was an idiot who put down his sword to save a kid. At that moment, Thorfinn loses control and runs at him. Askeladd immediately grabs his arm and kicks his leg, taking him down easily. He tells Thorfinn to not get so worked up and breaks his shoulder and then goes to eat. In the evening, Vikings are eating and celebrating, whereas Thorfinn is sitting on the father's boat. At that moment, the young man praises Askeladd and wonders if it is dangerous to keep Thorfinn. He replies that first of all, Thorfinn is a pure warrior and honor will not let him kill Askeladd disrespectfully. He looks at Gorm, who bids the slave ordeal and says that everyone is a slave to something. On the ship, Thorfinn imagines his father and starts crying. Thors tells him the words he said before: "You don't have enemies and a true warrior doesn't need a sword." Suddenly he wakes up because Hordaland brought him some food. She wonders if he is slave or not, and he says that he is a warrior and would escape if he was a slave. Then Thorfinn tells her about Vinland, and land where neither slave trades nor war reaches. Next, in August 1013 Anno Domini, Floki informs King Sven that the whole army is gathered here. King asks where Knut is, because he is one of his sons and a candidate to succeed to the throne. At that moment, Ragnar arrives them and wonders if Sven won't change his mind and not include Knut. The king also worries about his son and explains that there are Vikings, and if they don't demonstrate valor, people won't follow them. Next few months, the army will conquer almost the whole north of England, and the main problem will be London. In October 1013 Anno Domini, Askeladd and his men arrive in London. Askeladd wonders why Thorkild is helping the British. He also knows that all clans came here and helped the king just for the money and glory. Then he asks Thorfinn to bring Thorkild's head, and after that he will give him a long-awaited duel. Suddenly Thorfinn throws a dagger, breaks his drinking vase, and tells him that the next duel will be the last one and he will kill him. Thorfinn then looks at London Bridge and thinks about Thorkild. Next, Floki's boat reaches the breach and the British start to attack them. Floki yells that they came to meet and talk to Thorkild. Then Thorkild orders all warriors to stop attacking them, and Floki starts reading a letter from King Sven, where the king asks him to surrender and join them to conquer England. Floki asks him why he stands against them, against their brothers, and Thorkild replies that the only one who could battle against them was Prince Edmund. This kingdom is already doomed, so because of that, it's more interesting for him to fight against them all. After that, Thorkild throws a huge rock at them and they go back. Floki arrives at the king's room and reports that Thorkild refused their offer. The king orders to attack the breach immediately. Vikings reach the breach and start to destroy it, but Thorkild with others break all the boats. Askeladd's boat brings Thorfinn to the breach and he immediately jumps on him. The battle begins. Thorkild wants to hit the boy with a huge log, but Thorfinn dodges his attacks. Thorkild personally wants to kill him. Thorfinn finds his weak zones and runs at him. Thorkild wants to kick him, but he again dodges and damages his hand. Thorkild catches him and throws him to the ground several times. Askeladd goes back and Thorkild wonders if he is alive or not. Unexpectedly, Thorfinn uses his second dagger and cuts Thorkild's 2 fingers and then escapes. He asks his name. Thorfinn says that he is the son of Thors and falls to the river. Thorkild then lets him go. The king talks to Floki and orders him to select 4,000 warriors that will continue to conquer London, and the lead will be Knut. Ragnar is angry and against this plan, but the king blames him that the prince being weak and goes to conquer West England. Then Thorfinn escapes, whereas Sven's army leaves London as well as Askeladd. He meets Thorfinn and offers him to go with them to Wessex. Later, angry Thorfinn starts throwing huge rocks at the army that stayed in London. Two of them come to Ragnar and say that they are ready to attack London Bridge, but he answers that they need to wait. On the bridge, Asgeir informs Thorkell that Prince Knut leads the army, and at that moment Thorkell starts to laugh. Suddenly, we see young Thorfinn, his mother Helga, sister Ylva, neighbor Ari and father Thors. They are living in a beautiful place, and Thorfinn tells his father that he likes this place. Then Thors tells him that he must protect his mother and sister, and they are waiting for him to come back, and finally he tells that he must stop thinking about revenge. Suddenly Vikings attack their village and they shoot arrows at Thors. He dies, but then Thorfinn wakes up and starts to think about that place. Thorfinn goes to others. They are robbing villages one by one. Bjorn tells when England falls, Thorkell will come back. At that time Thorfinn climbs up the hill, looks at the fruitful lands and thinks about his homeland and father. Unexpectedly, Askeladd sits there and starts to talk to him, but Thorfinn doesn't want to say anything because he continues to dream about their duel. Askeladd notices that he has grown up and tells him that one day he will lose. He also mentions the great Romans that fell to Saxons, and now Saxons will fall to the Danes, and in 20 years they will face Ragnarok, the end of everything. Early in the morning, they see Knut's warrior. He informs that 500 British, led by Thorkell, will come here because they killed almost all 4,000 Knut's warriors. Next, Thorkell personally found the prince and Ragnar, and then he took them hostage. He offers them to join the main army, but Askeladd refuses and instantly cuts off the head of that warrior. Askeladd yells that they will save Knut and will fight against Thorkell's army because it's a chance for them. In addition, they can sell the prince for an amazing price. Bjorn comes to Askeladd thinking that he has a plan against Thorkell, but Askeladd doesn't have a plan, telling him that sunset is coming. Autumn has come to England and Thorkell with his men are going to find King Sven. On the way, they are talking about food, women and religion. Then Thorkell asks Knut a tricky question about religion, but he keeps silent and Ragnar defends him. In addition, they are joking about the king. Thorkell mentions Valhalla. A warrior who fought bravely and died during the battle will live in Valhalla or Asgard. Ragnar tells that Thorkell acts like a child and doesn't know anything about the king and prince. At that time, Holy Father starts to go crazy because he's sobered up. Suddenly, they stop and Thorkell takes a javelin and throws it so that it hits one of the Danes. Thorkell's army is surrounded by Ragnar's one. Thorkell releases Ragnar, Knut and Holy Father. He also angers the army, calling them weak people. Ragnar's warriors attack them and the battle begins. Thorkell kills them easily, whereas Ragnar asks his army to go back. During the battle, Thorkell smells something and looking at the forest, he sees the trees burning. He understands that someone else joined the battle. Next, we find out that this all was organized by Askeladd and his men. Askeladd sends Thorfinn to find the prince. Ragnar and the prince are trying to run away, but one of his warriors almost injures him. Thorkell's warriors find them as well as Thorfinn. Thorfinn takes his daggers and kills one of them. Thorfinn says that he came to rescue the prince. Unexpectedly, Thorkell arrives and asks him two questions. The first one is about the fire made by Askeladd's army, and the second is about Thor's. Thorkell realizes that this kid is the son of Thor's, Thor of Yom. Thorkell says that his father is the only human stronger than him. Suddenly, the burning tree falls and Thorkell leaves him, giving the prince and saying that they will meet soon because they have the same destination. Later, Thorfinn brings the prince to Askeladd. Ragnar orders Askeladd to protect and accompany the prince, and then Askeladd asks Prince to show his face. Knut takes off his helmet. Everyone looks at his gentle face and all think that he is a princess. On their way, Askeladd meets an old man. He comes to him and an old man says that he smuggles people from one coast to another. Askeladd gives him a letter and asks him to give it to any elder. At that moment, Ragnar is looking for Askeladd but finds Bjorn and Eir. Bjorn asks him to come down while Eir is working. Then Askeladd arrives and Eir informs them that Thorkell's army is reaching them, and suddenly two of them finds their camp. Askeladd says that they cannot fight because he asked for reinforcement. Late at night, all of Askeladd's men are sleeping and Bjorn comes to Askeladd saying that he is changed when he saw the face of the prince. Then Askeladd wakes all the men and they start to move. In few days, all warriors are tired, and Eir informs Askeladd that Thorkel is too close. Askeladd brings all the men to the ruins, where he meets two people, Gratianus, captain of Morganic's military, and his comrade. Askeladd greetings them, and then reinforcement appears from the back. Later, Thorkel's spies informs him about the arrival of unknown allies and their help to Askeladd. Next, we find out that one of Wales' kingdoms helped Askeladd. Ragnar offers to use their bows to reach Gainsburg, but Askeladd rejects his idea. Askeladd says that they will reach Gainsburg on foot and orders Thorfinn to defend the prince. In addition, Gratianus will accompany them. Gratianus adds that they have saved the prince because they need a non-aggression pact between Wales and Denmark. But the conversation reschedules because the prince keeps silent. Askeladd and his army start their journey to Gainsburg. On the way, warriors talk about women and money. Then, Holy Father starts to explain what a true love is. Suddenly, Bjorn comes to Askeladd and informs him that something bad is gonna happen. Askeladd and Gratianus reach Astor, a Welsh boy, and his friend. Unexpectedly, they start attacking them. Then we see Leif Ericson. He still tries to find Thorfinn. When Askeladd was young and his mother was at the death's door, he brought her back to Wales. In November 1013 Anno Domini, Floki reports to Sven that they have conquered Essex. Suddenly, the king wonders what happened in London, and Floki tells that there is no information about the prince. While in Wales, Gratianus and Askeladd ask Asser to draw all his forces, but he refuses. Suddenly, Askeladd realizes that Asser is playing a game and is going to play a role. He introduces Knut to them and asks him to say something spirited, but the prince starts to fear and Ragnar immediately protects him, telling them that it's very difficult to live in the royal family, but Knut has survived. Then, Askeladd decides to solve this problem personally. At that moment, Thorfinn looks at Prince and calls him shameful. Askeladd and Gratianus come to Asser. He says that they need good offers. Askeladd is going to tell him about their plan and asks if they help them when the war will start or not. At that time, Thorgrim and Bjorn are discussing Askeladd. Bjorn says that he doesn't know anything about Askeladd and it's strange that he knows their language. In a while, Gratianus tells that Askeladd is the son of Lydia and a descendant of Rumsaltay and Lucius Artorius Custus. Hesser asks for proof and Gratianus says that when Askeladd was 14, he brought his mother to Wales and he personally saw it. Askeladd added that his mother was a concubine for a Norse warrior Olaf, and Askeladd is their son. Later, he is going to control Prince Knut and not let the Danes attack Wales, and finally, Askeladd adds that he hates Danes a lot. Hesser's men take all their weapons for some time. All the way the Welsh are looking at Vikings, whereas Knut starts to talk and explains to Thorfinn that his words are very important and can affect the future. Thorfinn calls him princess and Knut goes mad. Later, he signs the non-aggression pact and then it starts snowing. Overall, 1 week left and Askeladd continues leading the army to Gainsburg. Next, we see Gerlani talking to the god and standing near the tree, but suddenly her mother calls her. At present, Holy Father prays to God and then brothers Atli and Thorgrim tells that they are loyal to each other. Atli also adds that during the battle most probably he will not save the Holy Father because he is not his friend. Next, Thorgrim starts talking about Thor's and his great power. Suddenly, Holy Father asks his name, but both don't know his name and Atli retells his words. A true warrior needs no sword. Then, Holy Father keeps repeating those words. Unexpectedly, warriors face snowfall. Ragnar mentions that Askeladd's luck changed. He also advises him to come back, but Askeladd again refuses. Askeladd and his men decide to rob the closest village where Annie and her family live. At this time, Annie and her family are praying before taking a meal. Next, their father explains about the judgment day and Annie goes outside. She comes to the same tree and wears a ring that she stole on the market. Annie extremely regrets her action and she tries to throw this ring away, but she stops. Suddenly she sees two Vikings. They enter her house and collect all weapons. Then his mother comes at Björn and he immediately hits this woman and she falls. Björn draws his sword and orders to give them all their food. Askeladd's army takes everyone hostage and he doesn't know what to do. Later, one of the residents has to leave them half of all food they gain. Askeladd is going to kill them all. Thorfinn and Ragnar suggest not killing them, but Askeladd orders his army to kill them all. Vikings immediately kill all people and only Annie escaped. She starts to go nowhere and sees a huge moon. After that, she starts talking to God. Annie begins crying and suddenly falls down, saying how ruthless people live on this earth. The next morning she survives and wakes up alone. Loki comes to King Sven, telling him that the prince has gone during the battle with Thorfinn, and then the king compares Knut with his elder son Harald. In December 1013 Anno Domini, Thorfinn and his army take a rest in Mercia. Asgeir reminds Thorfinn that he personally released the prince. He also has bad news. It's gonna be with Tanagemot soon in Wessex. Aristocrats are going to acknowledge King Sven as Bretwalda or simply the King of England. Thorfinn is very angry because he doesn't want to lose. While in the north of Mercia, Askeladd and Eir try to find Thorfinn. The prince, Ragnar and Holy Father bury and pray for the dead. Suddenly, Holy Father starts to doubt God, but the prince yells at him saying that there should be no doubting God. Later, Annie arrives at Mercia and informs residents about the Danes' attack. Thorfinn immediately goes there with his army. Eir hears Thorkinn's army and informs Askeladd, and Björn informs everyone about the coming danger. Thorfinn catches a rabbit and Ragnar invites him to cook a dish with this rabbit. Thorfinn likes the dish a lot and the prince tells him that one day he cooked fish and wanted to share it with his dad, but the king scolded him and told him never to cook. Suddenly, one of the warriors comes and informs them that they have been found. Ragnar is very angry and goes to find Askeladd with those two. Unexpectedly, another warrior attacked him in the back because it was Askeladd's order, and then Askeladd personally comes to talk to him about the prince. Askeladd thanks Ragnar for taking care of the prince. Ragnar adds that the throne is divided between two heirs. Some chose Knut and others chose Harald. People in power don't care about their meanings, and the king was afraid that the kingdom will divide into two parts. Because of that, he planned to kill Knut, sending him to war. After that, Ragnar falls and dies in front of Askeladd. Late at night, Askeladd brings the dead body of Ragnar to the prince, lying about his death. Knut cannot believe it and falls down. Askeladd leaves the room and orders Thorfinn to secure and protect the prince. Björn thinks the prince will grasp that Askeladd killed Ragnar one day, and then Askeladd says that the vision of the prince and he personally will change soon. They come to their men while they were beating a British. Askeladd takes scissors and starts cutting his fingers because he doesn't want to answer his questions. He wants to know three things: how many people, when they come, and who told about them. Askeladd starts to retell the history of England territory. Celti were living here before and their descendants are living in Wales now. Next, Romans arrived and were sharing with Celti their knowledge. Further, Romans left and Anglo-Saxons came about 500 years ago and conquered England, sending Celti to live in Wales. Next, Askeladd wants to cut his nose, but suddenly Eir comes and informs him about the enemy's arrival. Unexpectedly, British tells that Thorfinn with his army comes here. Thorfinn is already here and he orders his men to kill everyone except the prince and Thorfinn. At this time, the prince goes mad and doesn't want to leave the village without Ragnar, and then Askeladd hits him on the cheek. Suddenly, his close warriors bring deserters. They tell him that he is not lucky anymore and Thorfinn will kill him. Askeladd doesn't kill them and says that they will not stop and sleep until they reach Gainsburg. Thorfinn reaches that village in the morning and kills all deserters. It's already January 1014 Anno Domini. Askeladd orders Atle and Thorgrim to destroy the bridge. Next, Askeladd calls Björn and Thorfinn and orders them to take the prince and bring him to the Sven's army. because he understands that most warriors plan to betray Askeladd, especially brothers Atle and Thorgrim. The bridge was destroyed and unexpectedly Thorkel and his army find them. Thorkel immediately throws a javelin and kills some people. All warriors start to fear and Askeladd tells them to keep moving, but Thorgrim is very angry and doesn't trust him. Askeladd is going to leave them, but they surround Askeladd, Bjorn, Thorfinn and the prince. Thorgrim orders him to give them the prince and go away, otherwise they will kill him. Next we see Askeladd's childhood, where he talks about Avalon with his mother. Avalon is the place in the west where fairies live, infinite spring, and there is no death, senility or suffering. She tells that Artorius is there and one day he will come back and Askeladd must follow him. At present, Askeladd says all those 10 years that they spent together, all 10 years he hated them and immediately cuts the heads of 2 Danes. They start attacking them. Thorfinn and Bjorn start running away, whereas Askeladd fights against them all. Thorkel mentions that they start fighting against each other and runs there. At this time, more than 4 warriors follow Bjorn and Thorfinn. They kill one of 2 horses and everyone falls except Thorfinn. He hits Atle, takes his horse and rides to Askeladd. Suddenly, Bjorn eats a berserk mushroom. Askeladd is wounded and tired but still continues to fight. He personally cuts the body of a warrior into 2 parts. Some of them take a bow with arrows. Askeladd offers Thorgrim to take him hostage and later exchange with the prince, but they start to shoot arrows at him. Thorfinn finds them and rides to save him. Thorgrim orders to kill Askeladd, but warriors fall down and Thorkel appears. All Vikings surrender and Thorkel comes to Askeladd, ignoring Thorgrim. He wonders where is Thorfinn and Askeladd tells that he protects the prince. Thorkel is happy about that and orders his army to kill all of them except Askeladd. Thorkel brings an axe to Thorgrim and goes to kill him, but Thorgrim loses his mind from fear. At this time Thorfinn comes and Thorkel hits his horse. He yells that Askeladd is his prey and he will kill Thorkel if he touches Askeladd. The battle between Thorkel and Thorfinn begins and all warriors are watching it. Thorfinn dodges Thorkel's attacks, then goes and wants to kill, but Thorkel parries his attack. Thorkel mentions his amazing reaction and agility. He also adds that Helga was from a noble family, whereas Thors achieved everything alone. All warriors start to laugh because of Thorfinn's words, and suddenly Thorkel kills one of them, saying that he respects this kid. At this moment, Bjorn loses his self-control and the prince sees a dream, where Ragnar sits next to him. He says that he has grown up, Knut, not like a prince, but like a simple boy. They are hugging like dad and son. After that, he disappears. The prince wakes up and sees how Bjorn kills everyone alone. Holy Father sits next to him and the prince says that no one in this world will love him like Ragnar. By the way, Thorkel's army has already killed all betrayers. In the battle, nobody can win, but Thorfinn wanted him a lot. Thorkel asks what it means to be a real warrior, and Thorfinn remembers his father. In another part of the forest, Holy Father looks at the dead warrior and says that death is the embodiment of love. His soul is free and will not fight anymore. His body will be absorbed by nature. Ragnar's feelings towards the prince were choosenness. Thorfinn and Thorkel are still fighting. Suddenly, Thorfinn goes mad and damages his arm several times. Thorkel then uses the snow and hits the boy, and Thorfinn falls down from a high distance. At that moment, Bjorn kills the last enemy and runs to kill the prince. Crazy Bjorn reaches the prince, but the prince becomes confident and serious. After that, he calms him down. The prince decides to create a peaceful world. Suddenly, Atle wounds Bjorn. The prince is going to meet with Thorkel because he is going to stop the war and save Bjorn. Thorkel and his men reach Thorfinn and stop the battle because Thorfinn's right arm is broken. Then Askeladd comes to Thorfinn and wants to help him and suggests just to relax and think how to win Thorkel. Suddenly, Thorkel decides to tell him more about his father. When Thorkel and Thors were young, they were leading Hjom's Vikings. Chief Sigvaldi admired Thors and married his daughter Helga to him. Sigvaldi also was the elder brother of Thorkel and they are relatives of Thorfinn. In the last battle, Thors fell into the water and didn't come back. In 3 months, Thors came to Jomsburg to escape his wife and daughter, but Thorkel was there and wanted to kill him. Suddenly, he attacked them, but Thors defended himself. Thorkell was happy to see his old friend and wanted to inform everyone about it, but Thor asked him to keep the secret because Thor decided to stop fighting. Thorkell was angry and wanted to kill him, but Thor destroyed his axe and with a single punch, he put him to sleep. All 15 years, Thorkell was thinking about Thor. He also realized that Thorfinn didn't get anything from Thor. Later, Askeladd is going to help Thorfinn to win Thorkell. The second round begins and Thorkell attacks the kid, but Thorfinn just runs away. When Thorkell and Askeladd were young, they were fighting on the same battlefield and Askeladd saw how the greatest Thorkell fell down. At present, Askeladd's plan works. Thorkell reaches Thorfinn to finish him, but suddenly Askeladd using his sword reflects sunlight into his eyes and Thorfinn uses this moment and beats him. Thorkell falls and Thorfinn runs to kill him, but his army catches Thorfinn and wants to kill him. Unexpectedly, Thorkell stops them because they dishonored him. Next, the prince arrives. Thorkell accepts his loss and orders to escape Thorfinn. Thorkell confesses that he uses Knut as a prey. Suddenly, the prince informs them that King Sven doesn't love him and wants his death, and if Thorkell will let him go, the prince will go to Gainsborough to fight his father. Thorkell immediately is going to hit him, but the prince is not afraid of him and Thorkell stops. He adds that he still regrets not following Thor that day and sees his aspirations in the eyes of the prince. Finally, he announces that he will follow the prince and will help him to win Sven. Next, Askeladd comes to them and confesses that he killed Ragnar and wants the prince to kill him, but the prince lets him leave. Later, they go to fight King Sven. In January 1014 Anno Domini, Prince Knut, his vassals and their army reach Gainsborough. Floki cannot believe he is alive and comes to meet him with warriors. Knut informs him that he will visit the king in the evening and leaves. Next, he orders Thorkell to meet with chiefs and then he orders Askeladd to go with him to the meeting with the king. Askeladd offers to kill the king and because of that, Knut will gain all the power. The prince is going to create a peace on earth and wants to create a paradise. In the evening, Prince Askeladd and Thorfinn come to the king's room. Thorfinn notes that about 20 warriors hide and want to kill them, but Knut orders them not to get the swords, otherwise they will lose. Knut informs his father that Ragnar has died in the battle. Next, the king orders Knut to come closer and then mentions his transformation in character. When Sven was young, he expelled his father and became the king, thinking he will change the world, but the crown has a great power and Sven fell under its power. Suddenly, his warriors surround them and want to kill. The king offers to give him a few lands or he will kill him right now. Knut wanted to argue and suddenly Askeladd breaks into their conversation and notes that Knut helped to conquer London and called Thorkell to follow them. Unexpectedly, the king mentions his nickname, which means Ashen Lad. Then Sven mentions that he is the son of a slave woman and Askeladd starts to get angry. After this, the king changes his mind and lets his son to leave. The king left and Knut tells he cannot kill his son without any reason. In the evening, the prince has a feast and Askeladd mentions the king's intelligence, telling that it's dangerous to kill him right now. Suddenly, Ragnar's brother Gunnar comes to them and Knut informs him about the death of his brother and that he ain't gonna leave the kingdom. He also orders him to keep an eye on the king. Later, Askeladd goes outside and sees Thorfinn's training. Unexpectedly, Atli and Thorgrim come to him. Askeladd forgives him, gives him a golden bracelet and says don't take a sword anymore and live a normal life. In February 1014 Anno Domini, we see Leif in York. In the same year, Danes occupied York. This place has become a trade and a slave trade zone. At present, we see Leif and his traveling friend. Suddenly, Knut and his men come to York and Askeladd perhaps that Sven is gonna make York the new capital of England. He also adds that the king can divide Thorkell and Knut in tomorrow's feast. At this moment, Leif recognizes Askeladd and then an unknown warrior shoots an arrow at the prince, but Thorfinn finds and kills him in front of Leif. Bui, who serves King Sven, thinks that Thorfinn wounded the prince, but Thorfinn hits him and then Leif comes and hugs Thorfinn. Later, warriors are going to save the prince, but suddenly they find out that the prince is a woman. Next, Knut appears and Askeladd thinks that someone wants to kill him in York. while Thorfinn tells Leif that his main goal is a revenge. He also asks about Vinland, but Leif wonders why he is not asking about his mother and sister, and then Thorfinn gets angry. Leif offers to go home together, but Thorfinn yells that he will not stop until he kills Askeladd. Later, Askeladd visits Bjorn. Bjorn asks about his leg and they plan something for tomorrow. Late at night, Floki informs Sven that the prince is alive, while Askeladd informs Thorkell Gunnar is gearing the prince that he personally arranged all this. Askeladd plays a strategic game with the king, and then he tells that Gunnar can be a king's spy, so he ordered Thorfinn to keep an eye on him. Askeladd is not going to kill Gunnar because he wants Gunnar to report fake information to king. The next day, Thorfinn challenges Askeladd and suddenly, wounded Bjorn arrives. Askeladd explains that before their duel, he must fight Bjorn. Bjorn says that he praised him all the time even though he hates all Vikings. He adds that he always wanted to become his friend, and then Askeladd wounds him in the chest. Bjorn is dying and he repeats that he wanted to become his friend, and Askeladd confirms it and then kills him. Now Thorfinn will fight Askeladd. Thorfinn mentions the seriousness of Askeladd while Thorkell feels Askeladd will win this fight, and the prince knows that he will not anyone die in this battle. Thorfinn doesn't want to attack first, and Askeladd throws his sword away and provokes Thorfinn's anger. Thorfinn immediately attacks, but Askeladd catches him and hits him with his head. Thorfinn attacks again, but Askeladd continues to beat him up. Thorkell mentions that Askeladd knows his movements and attacks. Askeladd wants to kill him, but the prince stops their duel and saves Thorfinn. He wakes up and Askeladd knows that he loses because he doesn't think and becomes angry only when he fights him. Askeladd tells him he hates Vikings a lot and the first human he killed was his father. Next, Askeladd is going to tell him how to kill a person you hate a lot. In his childhood, his mother was a slave and very ill, so she couldn't work. All time Askeladd was dirty because of ash, so people called him Askeladd. His father Olaf was from a noble family. He liked women, drinking and killing people. There were numerous of his bastards. His mother was Olaf's favorite concubine, but when she got ill, she became his slave. She was always telling him about the hero Artarius who protected her village from Vikings and was believing that one day he will come to save her. In addition, she told about Avalon, the paradise in the west where Artarius lives. She was telling him about it a lot and he started to believe either, but the hero didn't appear. At the age of 11, his mother went crazy and thought that Olaf is Artarius. Olaf took his sword and wanted to kill her, but Askeladd protected her and started to fight Olaf. He was fighting well for the first time, but Olaf won. Suddenly, Olaf acknowledged him and let him to live in his house. Askeladd was doing well there and respected his father. In 2 years, all people of that village bowed to him and then he killed his father. Askeladd planned everything. He framed his brother and became the leader. At present, Askeladd waits for one thing. The thing is the Judgment Day. He calls Thorfinn an idiot because he couldn't kill him during 10 years. Askeladd thanks Thorfinn for his service. He was just playing a game with him. Suddenly, the prince asks why he must be a king rather than him. Askeladd replied that he looks more like a king and then he leaves. Later, Thorfinn looks at himself, remembers every moment of his life and cries. The next morning, the council meeting begins and all chiefs come there. Wounded Thorfinn wants to go there but falls down. At this time, all chiefs discuss gossip about the king and his sons. Next, King Sven, Floki, Prince Knut, Askeladd, Thorkell and Gunnar enter the building. Unexpectedly, Thorfinn confuses Helder with his friends. Helder hits Thorfinn and he falls down. Then they're going to beat him up, but Thorfinn defends himself and solo wins them. At that moment, Bui comes and brings him to jail, while King Sven greets all chiefs and thanks them to conquer England. He welcomes his son Knut, gives him lands of Mercia and orders Thorkell to help him. Next, he announces the next target. It will be Ireland. Askeladd is very happy that he reaches his plan, but suddenly King announces the second target. This target will be Wales, because they don't acknowledge the king. Suddenly, Askeladd stops breathing. In jail, Leif visits Thorfinn and reminds him of his childhood and how he was happy. He promises to give him back to Iceland one day. Next, the king talks to Floki and they find out that Askeladd cares about Wales a lot. Askeladd starts brainstorming what he can do to save Wales. In jail, Thorfinn refuses to come back right now and Leif reminds him about Vinland and adds that Thors came to Iceland to avoid wars and battles. He offers him to go there and create a place without wars and battles. At this moment, Thorkell wonders why Wales helped him to hide from him and Askeladd reveals that Wales is his homeland. Suddenly, the king calls him and Askeladd comes to them. Askeladd thinks about how to save his people. The king thanks him for saving his son and mentions Wales one more time. Unexpectedly, Askeladd starts talking and asks him to not attack Wales. Askeladd gives two reasons. The first one is that the army needs to get some rest and the second one is a barren land in Wales. Sweyn reaches Askeladd and thanks him for good advice. Suddenly, the king whispers to him, choose between Wales and Knut. He offers him to bring Knut's head, otherwise they will attack Wales. He also mentions his mother and tells him that the people of Wales are good slaves. At this time, Leif releases Thorfinn and they are going to visit Vinland, but Thorfinn runs away. In the meeting, Askeladd goes mad and starts to offend the king. Guardians prepare to attack him, but Askeladd takes his sword and prepares to kill him. Unexpectedly, Askeladd reveals his real name given by his mother, Lucius Artorius Custos. He adds that he is the rightful king of England and then cuts off the king's head. Next, he wants to kill the prince, but Knut orders the Guardians to kill him. At this time, Thorfinn reaches the meeting and sees how Askeladd personally kills all the Guardians. All warriors attack Askeladd, but he easily kills them all. Suddenly, Thorfinn enters the building and Knut reveals Thorkell that Askeladd didn't go crazy. He just plays a role because this is the only way that he can use to save the prince and Wales. Thorkell refuses to kill Askeladd, saying that only prince can kill his vassal. At that moment, Floki runs at Askeladd and fights him. He mentions that Askeladd is the son of a slave and then Thorfinn runs at him, but Askeladd says him to stop. Unexpectedly, the prince wounds Askeladd and Thorfinn catches his body. Thorkell comes to Knut and tells him to stand up straight because Askeladd made all this for him. Next, Thorfinn starts to yell at Askeladd and offers him to run away. In the last seconds of his life, Askeladd wants Thorfinn to kill him, but Thorfinn doesn't want to do it because he wants a fair duel. And then, Askeladd asks him what he will do next after his death. He begs him to go further and become a true warrior, and then he dies. The prince lets Thorfinn to go, but mad Thorfinn attacks him and Thorkell doesn't let him to kill the prince. Next, Knut announces that he will be the next king and will not attack Wales now. Guardians take Thorfinn away while Thorfinn cries and tries to reach the dead body of Askeladd. But suddenly, he drops his dagger and we see the whole his life on this dagger. At the end, we see Hild, Gudrid and Einar. They will play a vital role in Thorfinn's life in the future. Hey, thank you for watching this video, I really appreciate it. Also, check my other videos such as Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1 in 43 minutes and the greatest anime movie, Your Name in 17 minutes. Goodbye!